We're going to see how this works this morning. First of all, I want to thank Jim for setting this up. I sent rough slides over to him. He converted them to the magic of Rotary. And so magically they're appearing up here today, and we'll see what we've got. Again, my name is Dusty Babitske. I am in charge of district grants. And we're going to make a big distinguishment here because I don't know a darn thing about global grants. So Scott is going to talk about global grants when I'm done, but I do know a fair bit about district grants. We're going to cover five things today. First is, where do our matching grant funds originate? We're going to talk a little bit about projects that this money can be used for. What are the club eligibility criteria? What resources are available? And then how do you actually go through the application process? And we're going to try to make that pretty simple as we go through here. As Roger indicated earlier, money that your club or your members give to the Rotary Foundation specifically, and again, I'm specifically saying it needs to be to the annual fund share account. That word share at the end is very important because that is the only money that you give to the Rotary Foundation that is shared back with the district. And so what happens is when your club or a member gives $100 to the annual fund share account, that is broken out. It's divided into two pieces. $50 goes into what is called district designated funds. And again, the key there is the district gets that money. The remainder of it goes to the World Fund. Now, each district, when they get those district designated funds, they're allowed to determine how they want to administer those in terms of grants. District 5790 for the district grant part of that, $25 is divided into district grants. For the district grant part of that, we have made the decision that we're going to try to give as much of that money as possible back to the clubs that donated the money. And that's very important because your members and your club put the money in. We want you to have access to it to spend and match to do grants in your community. The $25 that goes to global grants, Scott will talk about that a little bit, but the global grants aren't necessarily guaranteed to be put back to the clubs if the club asks for them, because we have some big district projects, so the district does some things like global scholars, and but if possible, we'll try to give that money back to the clubs as well. And then on the global grant side, while this slide is up here, you'll notice that out of the $50 that went to the World Fund, if you actually participate in a global grant, Rotary Foundation will give you back 80 cents on $25 of that. They'll match another 80 cents. So if you put $1 of that 25 out of your club in there, they'll put another 80 cents back into it. So the global funds get a little bit of a boost if you participate on the global grant side. Any questions there? All right, we'll keep moving forward. So our application deadline is September the 1st. If your club applies for a district grant by September the 1st, if you ask for an amount that is not greater than the 25% of the district designated funds that your clubs put in, we guarantee that your club will receive that match, as long as you meet the rest of the criteria. But it's very important to understand that that guarantee is only on if that grant is complete and in place by September 1st. Because after that, it's going to be funds available only. So that dollar amount is determined Jim's given me some real good guidelines of where I can go and can't. But there is a share contribution detail report that shows exactly how much money your club gave during the 2021-2022 calendar year. And that's the money we got back this year from the foundation. And so that's where the donation amounts are based on. And you can get that from, I think your district governors are gonna have that. As a club president, you can go on to the Rotary Foundation site, sign in, and ask for your numbers for the share contribution detail. And that's specific numbers for your club. It's gonna give you a big number, and you divide that by 4, because 1/4 of that goes to district grants, 1/4 of it goes to global grants. Questions there? So when you're looking at these numbers and you're trying to figure out how much you can apply for a grant for, remember these grants are matching. So if your 25% share for district grants is $1,000, your grant amount would be $2,000. District's gonna put in 1,000 of that money, and your club's gonna put 1,000. It is a matching grant program. So, but if you ask for that on the first go around, that's what you're gonna get. Now, you can ask for more. But what's going to happen is if you ask for more than your DDF, your grant application is going to be set on the side. We're going to look at every club that only asked for their share. We're going to fund all of those first. And then if there's any money remaining after we do that, we'll come back and look at the requests that were for more than their actual district designated funds. And if we do that, we'll consider those based on the following table. We go back now, instead of looking at the DDF from 3 years ago, we will go back to your club 3-year per capita giving. And again, all of the presidents, I believe on Friday, Roger, is that correct? Received a report showing what their 3-year per capita giving was. And so when you look at that number, if your per capita giving was 0 to 50, then you can ask for up to an additional $500. Again, it's not guaranteed, it's funds available. Per capita giving between 51 and 99, it's $750. 100 to 199, it's up to $1,500. If your per capita giving is greater than 199, the committee will make a decision on how much we will give at that point, and it will not exceed $2,500. And again, this slide, if you've done this in the past, is different. We've changed these dollar amounts to try to make sure that there's adequate funding for all the clubs as they ask for their money. Again, no guarantees if you ask for more than your DDF.
Dusty, are these amounts on the website somewhere?
They are not.
They're not, okay.
Because the amounts are club sensitive and we can't post them.
I'm sorry, the guidelines that you just went over the last.
The guidelines, everything that we have up here is posted at district5790.org. They are on there and easily accessible. You'll see them. Now, this new slide that I have up here is not on there yet. We should have those up probably by the end of April. And the only reason I haven't switched them over is we're still working on this year's grant and this year's numbers. Okay? All right. If you request a grant after September 1st, again, the big thing is funds available. If we give all the money away on September 1st, and there's no more money left, doesn't matter what you apply for, it's not going to be available. Okay? So it's very important, if you are really serious about these grants, get them in by the September 1st deadline. If we do still have funds available, we'll look at them again on November 1st, and if by chance there's still some left, we'll look at them again on January 1st. Any questions there? Yes, ma'am.
On if you apply before September 1, you meet all the criteria, that you want more than what your estimated funds is, you're set to the side, but since you're already allotted that amount, and let's say they don't approve to give you more, do you still get?
No,
You do risk, there is a risk,
there is a risk.
even though it's set aside for you.
If the grant is set aside, we look at that grant last. It's not, the money's not set aside for you. Your grant is set aside out of the file of those that just asked for their DDF. And then we'll go back and look at those that asked for more.
So there's a chance you wouldn't get any.
There's a possibility, probably not a chance you wouldn't get any, but there is a possibility that you would get less.
Okay.
Because then, when we go back into the stack that's over request, where do you think we're gonna start?
The one that's asking for the least amount?
No, he's given them
We're gonna look at the clubs that have given the most.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so we're gonna start at the high end and we're gonna come back down.
Okay.
And so there is that chance. So just keep that in mind. Now, I will also add,
Well, I just wanted to clarify, so let's say if a club is guaranteed, a certain amount, let's say $500, and they apply for a $750 grant, are they still guaranteed they would get their $500?
no, that's what we're saying. If you ask for, the guarantee is if you only ask for your DDF or less. If you ask for more, then that goes into a second pile that is not guaranteed money. Okay, so there is the possibility that you might not get all of your money at that point. Okay, thank you, sir.
Can you submit two then on September 1st? One for your amount and then an additional one, and then if there's extra money, that additional one would be looked at?
No, because that's letting you cheat the system. And so the question was, can you submit two grants, one for the amount and an additional one for the excess? If your total grant request on September 1st, doesn't matter whether you do one grant or three, we're gonna look at the total dollars you requested. If they're greater than your DDF, all of those grants are gonna get moved into that other stack. Okay?
So I'm still trying to understand, when does the application of the 3-year average of the per capita comes into play? And then kind of tagging on to that is if we apply for 3 grants, does that average fall into that combination or those 3 grants?
Okay, so the question is, where does the 3-year per capita giving average come into play? And if you are asking for more than one grant, does that apply to each grant individually or the total of the grants? So the per capita giving only comes into play if you are requesting more than your DDF. If you're requesting your allotted DDF, if you're allotted 1,000 and you request 1,000 or less, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're allotted 1,000 and you request 1,500, then this is going to come into play, because this is going to determine the maximum amount of overage we'll even look at, period. And then secondly, it moves you into that second pile. And again, it's the combination of all of the grants that you submit on September 1st. So if you divide that DDF between 3 different grants, that's okay, but we're gonna look at we're gonna move all 3 of those into a pile separate if the total between the 3 is larger. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
What percentage of clubs in the district are over the 199 for the 3-year average?
That's a great question. Roger? Yes. Do you know what percentage of the clubs was over the 199? Off the top of my head, I want to say there was maybe 10 to 15%. It's not a huge amount. Okay.
Earlier, Dusty, you mentioned to the clubs that give the most? Is that per capita or is that in total?
That's per capita giving. So we look at it per capita giving as, again, the question Jim asked is, when we say clubs that are giving the most, it's the most in per capita giving, not the biggest total dollar amount. Yes, ma'am?
Can several clubs get together and apply for a district grant?
You can, if you would like to.
And how does that get calculated?
And again,
Say per capita of all the clubs combined?
it's each club's. So your club, if your DDF was 1,000 and her club was 1,000 and you asked for 2,000 between the two clubs, then that's fine. So,
We've done that before.
But it seems like the penalty, is designed to support or basically like support you asking for just what you need. Because you're getting penalized for not asking for anything, but you're also getting penalized for doing more. So, I mean, I'm just trying to understand why that thought process even came about. Should you not look at what's remaining from the people that did not ask for anything and divide it amongst the people that are asking for more?
we will.
Because, yeah,
But,
I'm saying guarantee what their club provided.
but again, let's say, for example, I'm just gonna use a two-club scenario for the overage. So Grapevine, their DDF would allow them to ask for an extra $2,500. And if we only had $2,000 left, okay, they're the highest per capita giving, so they may get that whole $2,000 versus the second club in line that had a overage of $500, and they don't.
But that club would get penalized $500 even from their own giving because of the decision.
No, what I'm saying is, if that was the only money that was left, then yes, that is a possibility. Because if every other club in the district had asked for money, that is a possibility.
But why not just cap Grapevine at 2,000 and not protect the other club from losing additional funds that they already
This
provided?
is only on the overage though.
Yeah,
This is
this-
the November 1 deadline, not the September one.
Yeah, this is only, we're talking about the overage above what your club asked for.
But one of the questions that was asked earlier was, if your club asked for more than what your grant allows, then you're set aside and you have the potential risk of not receiving just the amount. And so the question and concern here is more around the thought process of why are you penalizing a club for asking for more? Why not guarantee their base? And then the overage is what's divided based on how much.
So,
you're asking.
so the question is, why do we not protect the basic amount and allow the overages to just set? And the reason for that is if we did that, every single club in here would ask for the maximum amount they could over. And then we would be sitting there with a stack of nobody asking for their DDF and a whole big stack that we've got to figure out who is going to get the rest of the money. And that's the reason we did it that way.
Hey, Dusty, tell us
sir.
that when we review these especially on the second round, we may just do a percentage of 5 different grants.
Yeah. And Roger's bringing up a point. We're only talking about the September 1st deadline. If after September 1st there's some money left and the requests come in after September 1st, we're looking at trying to allocate it between whatever clubs ask for it at that point in time. But again, we're looking at that September 1st deadline first.
How many times have you exhausted all of the DDF on the first round?
Never. As of today. Now, this year we did exhaust all of it in the September round. It was all gone in September and there was no more. But this is the first time this is even the first year we've done that.
So Dusty, this was altered years ago, and the reason being, to answer your question more directly about it, was the example of be smart enough to submit for a total request in on the first day, so they can please. But let's assume that that did happen, okay? So they asked for 2,500, there's only 2,000 available. You asked for 1,000, you have 500. The reason the decision might be made that way by the committee is because, is it really fair to take $500 worth of money that was contributed by Grapevine and give it to a different club? That's why the processes came the way, because it used to be, everybody just submitted it, and you'd look at how many dollars there were, and then the committee would have to make all the decisions. This time, at least we know we get guarantees for whatever it is. If we get it in before September 1st, and the project fits the criteria, you know you're gonna get it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because, and again, we're trying to keep it on some way of being reasonable for us to determine these dollar amounts without spending hundreds of hours of time doing this. Because when the committee meets, we try to run through these grants and get them approved as soon as we can. Cheryl?
The best thing to do, if you're looking 3 years out, you've got a long-term planning, you have an excellent comment about what you want to do. If you want to do, you're only earning about $500, $750 worth of district grant money, because it's 25% of your DDF. If you want to end up getting $1,000 a year from it, then you're going to have to up your foundation giving.
Increase the
Because
giving.
in 3 years, you'll be there. You'll be where you're going to go, and that's the total criteria.
Yeah, and that Gerald brings up a good point. The whole idea is to try to encourage your club members to support the foundation and raise the foundation giving. And I've seen clubs go from 0 to a couple of $100 per capita giving in 3 years. So it's very easy to do if you get a foundation chair and get somebody to kind of push club members to do that. Yes, sir.
So I think you might have hit on this, but so have there been any clubs that asked for additional funds but did not receive their 25%? Have you had that happen?
At this point, the answer to that, has there been any clubs not get their DDF? And at this point in time, no. And again, these guidelines are put in there to try to ensure that that doesn't happen. Okay? One more.
Okay, so in the last couple of years, how many clubs have not even requested any funds?
How many clubs have
Have
what?
not requested, not a grant at all.
Probably half the district. But again, most of the clubs that are not requesting money don't support the foundation. So it's a two-edged sword. So the ones that are supporting the foundation are doing that, and they're asking for their money back because they want to get some return on that. All right. Notice at the bottom of this slide, foundation chair. If your club doesn't have a foundation chair, you want to try to increase your per capita giving. That's the fastest way to do it. Put a foundation chair in place, let them figure out how the annual share fund works, and let them kind of start sparking your members to donate, because that's the quickest way to get up to where you have more money to give back to your community. All right. The big difference between district grants and Rotary International grants is these are administered by the district. We still have to follow some of Rotary International's guidelines, however, or the Rotary Foundation guidelines, but they are administered by the district. They are intended to be completed within the Rotary year you get the funds. And that's crucial. These have to be completed and all the paperwork turned in and done before the end, preferably before the end of May, so we have time to get our books closed out, but definitely before the end of June. So that means you have to get all the money spent, all the receipts in, so that you can get your bank statements in June and get them put in. They need to address immediate needs at home, or they can be used internationally if you want to. They're pretty much any kind of project you want to think of, you can use. Service projects, scholarships, vocational training, youth services. We also added this year, because a lot of clubs needed to start spending some money early in the Rotary year. And one of the Rotary Foundation's policies is that you cannot spend money before your grant's been approved. So what we've done is added a pre-approved category. So if your club is asking for a dictionary project, food pantries, or you're donating money to Shelter Box, then those will be considered pre-approved. And as long as you're not asking for more than your DDF, if you need to start ordering dictionaries in August, even though we won't officially look at these grants until September, that's perfectly fine. Okay? And that's new for this year to try to help you out a little bit. All right, here's some club eligibility requirements. These apply to both district grants and global grants. The first one is all of your dues have to be paid. And you have to have a current 990 in place. Current 990 means the immediate year that you just completed or the prior year. One of the two of those will work, because sometimes by September you don't have the last one done. The club cannot have any district grants open from prior years. And this goes the same for global grants as well. However, with these, if you have a grant open by September 1st from the prior year, you aren't getting any more grants again, period, so there's no reason to put an application in. Because if you don't get these grants completed by June, I can't get the next year's money from the foundation. They won't pay us. And so you're holding up the entire district from getting their checks for their grants if you don't have your grants closed out by June.
By closed out, you mean spent, and the project's done?
Spent, the final reports turned in, all the receipts, everything has to be closed by the end of June. Okay?
And phone calls.
Two people from the club must participate in a district grant. One of those people is the president. That's why all of you are sitting in this room. The second one should be whoever is writing the grant. Whoever is writing the grant needs to have gone through district grant training. That's why we're recording this today. When we get done, this recording will be up on the website, and anyone that wants to be certified can go through, watch the video, and go in and answer some questions about the video and sign up showing they've completed that. But anyone you're going to appoint to write grants needs to do that, please, because they need to understand what the rules are. Your club is going to need to sign a memo of understanding. Your club is going to need to sign a memo of understanding. That will be posted, again, 5790.org. That needs to be done. That's part of the original grant application that has to be on there. Club presidents must enter 13 of 25 goals in Rotary Club Central. You've probably heard that several times over the last few days, but again, it's a requirement to receive the grant. And you have to upload a copy of those to the grant application. And you have to have regular support of the Rotary Foundation share account. And we recommend that you have a foundation chair. So again, those are key rules. If you don't have those, don't expect to get your grant approved. Okay? Resources, 5790.org. We talked about it several times. The actual grants are turned in either from the link on 5790.org or at matchinggrants.org, and then district grants. You can always give me a call, Dusty Babitske. That's my office number, and my email is dustybabitske@yahoo.com. And I will do my best to get back to you within a couple of days. There's a lot of times I'm out of the country for a couple of weeks at a time, and if I'm out on a fishing boat somewhere in the middle of the ocean, I probably don't have access to my email. All right? Any questions there? All right, that's not it. That's not it. That's how you get to the grant, okay? Now we're gonna quickly run through all the steps we've talked about. 5790.org, click on the Foundation tab. Under the Foundation tab, click on District Grants. Pretty straightforward. When you get to there, on the left-hand side, you'll see 5790 District Grant Application. And that's an online link that will take you directly to matchinggrants.org. When you get to matchinggrants.org, again, click on District Grants if you're working on District Grants, Global Grants if you're working on a Global Grant. If you've never been on this site before, it'll ask you to create an account. If you've been on there before, when you click My Account, it'll just pull it up. Please, 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 please use the same email address on these that you use on the rest of your Rotary documents, because if not, it creates a lot of headaches for the webmaster that runs at matchinggrants.org, because he gets a lot of duplicate information in there. When you get there, after you've set up your account, you click on Submit Your Project. If you haven't put an email in, it'll let you create one right there and a password. Click Log In, and it'll come up to the submission page. Be prepared when you're going to submit this to complete this in one sitting. It's not stored anywhere. So you go through, put in all of your information. It's just fill in the blank. And if you back up for a second. Once that's submitted, all the rest of the forms that you're going to need to attach to that grant are going to be found again at 5790.org. You're going to have to put in the MOU form. You're going to, at the end of the project, you're going to have to put in a final grant report. And if your nonprofits aren't sending you letters acknowledging that you're participating in their grants, there's a sample nonprofit letter in there you can give them and say, hey, we need a copy of this back, but attached to the grant as well. There's also a couple of instruction sheets, a highlight form, and a district grant checklist for the final report. All right. Once you've gone through that first page and submitted it, it's going to move you over to the matchinggrants.org website. Anytime that you want to work on your grant, you just go over there, highlight your grant, click on it, and then it will bring it up. When you want to upload your documents, there is a document tab. You click on Documents, click on Administration, and it will bring this screen up. Now, there's three things about this screen that are extremely important. The first one is that if you are adding any information that is sensitive, that you don't want the public seeing, and that's specifically when you start uploading bank accounts, when you upload canceled checks, and if you're uploading grant information that has sensitive information about kids that you're giving grants to, you don't want that in the public view. So please check the restricted box. So you title it, you upload your file, and it'll pull it right in, but again, sensitive information restrict. Once your grant's approved and you're ready for the funding, you don't have to wait until you've completed the grant or spent the money. We don't expect you to float the district's money up front. When you're ready for it, send me an email. I then send a written request to the district treasurer and the district president. They go through and review, make sure all of your dues are paid, everything looks good, and then they'll send the checks out. Okay? Back up 1 second. Notice the pay dates. We will not write checks for these grants after April 30th. So again, it's really important to get those projects working as soon as you can. And the reason for that is we have to close our books out and get all of our canceled checks and everything before the end of June as well. Use the grants checklist, try to make it easy. Submit your final report 30 days after you complete your project. This year, I think I had 50 grants roughly. And as of today, we're sitting at the end of February. I think maybe 6 of them have sent in final reports. And there's a few of them that were for Thanksgiving baskets and Christmas baskets that are a little past that 30 days overdue if your club happens to be one of those. So try to get these in so I don't get all the reports at one time and have to go through them, please. Reports need to include the final report, all receipts. If your club actually spent money on the project, you have to have paid receipts. You also have to have canceled checks if you wrote checks, and copy of the bank statements for when those checks cleared, as well as letters from the nonprofit organizations. And if you want to upload pictures, there is a place to put pictures on the grant, and that's also nice if somebody else is looking at that grant. So I'm gonna tell you.
Can I just add something, Dusty, back to the restricted account? I can't stress enough to you in here, whoever writes your grants, our account was compromised for that very reason, and they tried to take $10,000 from our bank account because they hacked into it because we had uploaded the check and didn't check the restricted box. So that is just, I cannot stress that enough, how important that is.
Yeah, and that the comment is that please restrict banking information because it has been hacked off of there before, taken off there. It's not hacked. If it wasn't restricted, it's out in the public domain and they just pulled it. I think your club had it happen. I think Grapevine had it happen as well. And so just make sure you restrict things. Use the checklist when you're doing your final report. It's very helpful. You can go through and see what you need on there. I would also tell you that one of the biggest places that clubs seem to get themselves in trouble meeting the deadlines to get canceled checks and things in at the end of the year is scholarships. Because a lot of times if you're giving scholarships to an individual, they don't enroll in school, and you can't send the money until they have an enrollment. So you really need to figure out a way around that. You talk to the schools, find out if they have a foundation that you can make that check out to ahead of time, and then they'll pay the student afterwards so that you have a canceled check and a receipt and letter from them. Just really watch that, because that will hold your grant up. And if you can't get it complete, then you wind up in that situation where you don't get a grant the following year. Again, if you're using organizations, third-party organizations like, I don't know, a food pantry or something like that, and you just write them a check. And your grant's $2,500, you write them a check for $2,500. They give you a donation letter saying it's done, and really your grant's complete. You can go in as soon as you have that donation letter and canceled checks. You've done everything you need to. You don't have to chase down receipts or what they spent it for, all of those things. It's really pretty simple if you do your grant that way. Okay? Final grant report. The two biggest issues I have with the final grant reports coming in is down here. If there is an amount from the district, there is an amount from your club. The club money should be at least as much or more than the district money, because again, it's matching grant money. Total those up, and that should be your total project. So if you have a $2,500 project, on this line, this section is expenditures. And for some reason or another, everyone wants to ignore expenditures. They'll do the first line most of the time, but they don't tell me how they spent the money. So if you wrote a check, write check number 2240 to ABC and the dollar amount, and that's fine, and that total should match what you put in here. Those two yellow lines are there to match up. If you actually did receipts, you did a project and you had 35 different receipts, please list those on a spreadsheet. Don't try to write them all down there on the bottom of that. Create a separate spreadsheet and put spreadsheet attached, and then put it in with your final submission, and we'll sort that out. And again, the dollar amount should match. But try to make it easier for whoever's auditing these. I have to audit them at the district level. Sharon has to audit them at the district level. And then the foundation goes back and looks at these as well. And so we need to make that money trail as clear as possible. All right. The completed final report, all necessary forms signed and dated, detailed listing of the money spent, canceled checks, and bank statements. If you write checks or you send drafts, we need a copy of the bank statement where that check cleared, and we need a copy of the canceled check front and back put on there. All invoices, proof of payment. The Rotary Club should be the payer on all of these. If nonprofits we talked about, scholarship monies cannot be written to students, they have to go to an organization. Invoices not marked paid with the check number dated and signed are not documents of funds spent. So we need exact detail of how you spent the money. No project is to benefit any Rotary Club or Rotarian. These are to help folks in the community or others. And the club should have a procedure for retaining documentation of all grant information. The district pays matchinggrants.org to retain this information for you. And so if you've documented everything, put all the documents that you're supposed to into the grant, then that will serve as documentation because that's kept by matchinggrants.org. Again, this year's theme is the magic of Rotary. We ask you to use your grants to make some magic in your community or someplace in the world. And if you have any questions, I'll be here for a while. I'm gonna let Scott get up here and talk about global grants. But before he comes up, just a couple of minutes, any questions or thoughts at the end of this? Yes, sir.
I have a question. I've done a lot of district grants in Uganda.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, it seemed that there was a requirement for there to be a club in the place where you're using the funds. Has that changed?
Again, that is for global grants.
This wasn't global grants, these were just DDF grants, I think. They were small.
Shouldn't have been, because that's administered by your club. You're paying for it, you're doing it. Where we do have to be careful, though, is there are some countries. I know Uganda was, I think it's off the list now, but Ukraine's still on the list. There's certain countries that, because of anti-money laundering rules, the government's still watching, and if you do a grant in one of those, the foundation comes back and determines whether or not you're able to do that. They'll determine whether or not it's approved.
That's on a global, not a district.
What? That's on global and district.
Oh, in district too? Okay.
Yeah, that's on district as well. But on the needing a club, and that we haven't had that before on the district ones. Okay? Or if we have, it's been a long time ago. It hasn't been in the last 4 years since I've been doing them. Okay. Who's got their hand up?
Do we have access to all of these slides somewhere?
Yeah,
The video will be posted.
Okay.
Everything will be on there. And Jim, are you going to put the slides back? Jim will put the slides back up there as well on the 5790.org.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it'll be back under the district grants site. All right, Mr. Scott, you want to come up here and talk a little bit about global grants?